in me. Peace, light, love in me. Here in the stillness of this quiet hour, sweet words of wisdom fill my ears. Your words like water keep my soul sustained. Let them rain, let them rain. Peace, light, love in me. I hold your presence here inside of me. I rest in knowing you are here. Brighter than 1,000 stars across the sky. How you shine, how you shine. Peace, light, love in me. Sing it with me if you want. Peace, light, love in me. One more time. Peace, light, love in me. Peace, light, love in me.
Please join me in prayer. We give thanks for the ability to come together as we explore the many ways of listening from within to connect with each other and with that great divine source, that one perfect life that makes things out of itself and becomes what it loves. We know that God is perfect, whole, and complete in form and substance, as are we by divine design, each endowed with her or his unique gifts and unique ways to express, sent here on a purpose to make a world that works for everyone. We are grateful for all of the people in this space who've come here to celebrate the gift of listening. And we are especially grateful for Chris Lahiff, Reverend Chris Lahiff, who is here to tell us how silence is a pathway to understanding. We give thanks for Ken, our musician. We give thanks for Travis, our tech person. We give thanks for Mickey, who did the announcements, and for our hospitality team, Nancy and Dennis and Patricia. We're just so grateful for Carol and for everyone who's come together to make this service all it can be. We know that each and every person that listens in here, whether they're in this space or online, will hear what it is that they need to hear in order to continue to express is that the unique expression of the divine that they are, that they've come here to learn and to serve. I release these words in the divine law where they're already done in the universal mind. I'll let this go, I'll let it be. Together we affirm, and so it is. And I have some inspirational quotes as I try to bring each week. Our first are from Mark Nepo, author of the book, 7,000 Ways to Listen. Deep silence, deep search, and deep questioning lead us to a depth of hearts that lives below illusion. From Herman Melville, all profound things and emotions of things are preceded and attended by silence. Silence is the general consecration of the universe. From our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes, there through the door of our own thought, we enter into universal consciousness, into a complete realization of life and truth, of love and beauty, as we sit in the silence of our own souls and listen. It will be the greatest thing we ever do. We've got Reverend Chris Lahiff here, who has, since coming up from Florida, just continually answered the call when I asked him to serve us, and he's just been so remarkable. I'm starting to think that no's not in his vocabulary here. So just a reminder a little bit, he's a licensed Science of Mind minister for the Centers of Spiritual Living. He most recently served as the spiritual director at CSL Cape Coral, Florida. He studied and served in several communities, beginning with classes at Mile High. It's amazing how many of you guys seem to get hooked in there and then just spread that love and light everywhere. Then as an online practitioner study, while serving at Miracle CSL in Cleveland, Ohio, my hometown, and served as CSL Connecticut, Greater Orlando CSL. Everywhere the call to serve has been, there's been Reverend Chris. It's amazing. So he currently lives in the Denver area with his spouse, Lee, and their 2 children. And Chris's core belief is that love is all that matters. And it shows up not in just what he says, but what he does. And so he's going to talk to us about silence as a pathway to understanding. Come on now, Chris.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see you again. Great to be back in the presence. What a wonderful place. So thank you for having me. I wanted to start today with a story. And so the story comes from a man named Jay Shetty. So I'm guessing a few people are probably familiar. He was a up-and-comer in the corporate America world, and he saw somebody that inspired him, and so he decided to drop out of that, and he moved to India to become a monk. And so he tells this story. He was going from the northern tip of India to the southern tip. It's a train ride, about 72 hours. He made a point of saying, and as monks, we don't travel in first class. We don't even travel in economy. We travel in the lowest class possible. And the interviewer asked, well, why is that? And he said, well, it's so that we don't get attached or we don't have desires. And so you can imagine that in India, in the lowest class possible, it could be maybe a bit of a chaotic train ride. So 72 hours, he would get off at the stops and go meditate because it was nice and peaceful and quiet out there. His teacher noticed and asked him when he got back on, he's like, why aren't you meditating on the train? And he said, it's just so hectic on the train, but the stops, they're so peaceful. He said, interesting. And then he asked him, he said, so do you think life is peaceful like the stops, Or do you think it's difficult, like the train? And he said he'd only been, in monk training for about a week at that point. And so he's like, I'd have to say difficult, like the train. The teacher said, so that is where you practice. So that's what I want to open up into today, is that there is infinite wisdom within. So this comes from Mother Teresa. In the silence of the heart, God speaks. But how do we get to that silence? We have infinite wisdom within us that always wants to come through us. That it's there for us in our times of challenge. It's there for us in our times of celebration, but we have to be able to hear it. So Jay Shetty made a great point to me. Can we be silent when everything else out here is loud, when everything else out here is clamoring for our attention so difficultly? So Russell sent me a nice thought kind of outline for this. And the first thing he wanted to talk about, or wanted me to talk about, is the external versus the internal noise. One of the things that people do when we're looking at, connecting to this voice, looking to begin meditation or looking to deepen our meditation practice, is we might have the idea of setting up that perfect meditation space. So when everything around me gets quiet, then I'll be quiet. It's the same thing when we talk about we want to create a peaceful world. We want to manifest world peace. And when that happens, then I'll be at peace. But we get it backwards. When we're at peace, we'll start to see the peace out there, but we won't see it until then. We won't see a serenity and a silence out there until we learn to still that voice within us. And so we contend with all the external noise. We have traffic. We have our to-do list. We have the news and politics. We have family, friends. There's always something that can take our attention. So just getting through the external noise is a challenge. But then to make matters even more complicated, we add to it. We are living in a time which is a magnificent time of technology and information. And the blessing or the curse is that you never have to be bored again, ever. We carry around, infinite cat videos or Netflix or read a book or text somebody or get onto Facebook and scroll. We don't have to be bored. But then the drawback from that is that we're never bored. What happens when we're bored? Our mind wanders. We daydream. We talk a lot in Centers for Spiritual Living about that God speaking to us through our heart. But we have to create the space in order for that voice to come to the surface. And if every time that I have a free moment, if my go-to thing is like, I'm at the dentist's office, and, you used to look at a magazine, but I don't think they even have those in dentist offices anymore. Pull out my phone. I'm stealing, I'm robbing from myself to hear that voice. Because I have to say, I know how preachy I sound sometimes, and so I want to reiterate that I love when I get opportunity to do talks, because it opens up more within me of where my work is to be done. And so I'm really speaking to myself, and of course, we're all free to do life as we see fit. So roll with me or take it with a grain of salt and see what resonates with you. I notice myself, the more stress I'm experiencing in my life, the more that I kind of lose track of that inner compass, and I'm getting caught up in the news, and I'm getting caught up in things that just really cause me to be upset, cause me stress. That during those times, when I need that still small voice even more, is when I'm even further away from it. Because when I'm finding myself stressed, I don't know if it's the mind's tendency to want to avoid that, or to want to bring comfort through finding the next thing in the news. And so I find myself more and more wanting to be drawn to this. I cannot get to that still small voice when I'm constantly pulling back in. So, from Ernest Holmes, he's talking about the same thing, that there is a place in you and in me that is above confusion and fear. If we get quiet long enough and listen deeply enough, we shall hear. So when we start to lean in, when we start to invite silence, there is a discomfort and a wisdom that comes from that. Maybe you've had this experience. I was trying to think of a good example. When you're on the phone with a loved one, on a phone with somebody, and maybe it's a more challenging conversation. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe you're going through something. Maybe you're both going through something. And you ask a question or make a statement that clearly passes the ball. And then you wait. And you're waiting. And then you're waiting. And you're starting to wonder, like, if they're even still on the phone. If you had that experience, and that silence can be very uncomfortable. And the risk is, like, as human beings and our ego, we have this tendency to want to fill every second. But when we could just take a breath and pull back, because I know a lot of times when we're on that phone conversation, we're getting a little more uncomfortable, and then we throw a safety net or an off-ramp. We give them an opportunity to not have to respond. And quite often when I've found myself doing that, we both blurt out something at the same time. And so the person that I am inviting, to be in presence with, to listen with, I've now, whatever they had taken time to think about, I kind of, now all of a sudden I'm butting into it and I'm negating and limiting what it is that they want to share with me. And so there's encouragement to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable. And that discomfort, we talk about the external noise and the internal noise. So if we don't take intentional pauses to allow ourselves to be bored, it's hard to even start to notice the internal noise. And so the more then that we develop that, we're rating in that discomfort with other people, but it happens on the individual level too. So when we take time, I'm sure you've noticed if you spent time in meditation or contemplation, it can get uncomfortable. And quite often, it can even be painful because things come up. That still small voice that's within us, it shows us what we need to heal. And in order to heal, we have to be willing to be uncomfortable. So the more that we lean into that silence and just embrace that discomfort, the more that we open and become a presence to heal. Right now, the most important thing to me, we talk about this shift in consciousness that we've been manifesting and creating a world that works for everyone as the mantra of Centers for Spiritual Living. We're seeing signs of massive shifts happening, and it's important to hold in the vision of what it is that we want to create. We've known that the old ways need to evolve. They've been evolving. We've seen it. We've seen that, general arc towards kindness that, people talk about the universe always leans towards justice, but it's a process. And so we're seeing it unfold. We're seeing a time to create a new way of being, and it's just a continuation. It's a spectrum that we swing back and forth, but more so right now than ever, I firmly and with deep faith and conviction know that new ways of being are emerging all around us, and we have to be able to keep ourselves in alignment and open to that presence, to those words that are always speaking to us. Now, we do that by healing ourselves, by going within. When I see something out there that brings me discontent or makes me upset, it only makes me upset because there's something within me that's the receptor for that. It takes two parts. And so when I want to see change out in the world, it begins by exploring within, where do I need to change? Just last week, I had a kind of a profound experience that something that I'd been working on for 15 years, it came up because something that happened in the news that I won't go into, but something that it caused something in me of when I used to have anger issues, when I used to have a harder time controlling my temper. I felt this kind of almost a rage rise up in me. And it was truly a gift and a blessing to have that realization. Years ago, I would have just been on autopilot. Like that still small voice, for most of my life, I didn't know it existed at all. But then after discovering these teachings and New Thought teachings and leaning into it, now it makes sense, and now it's available. So how many people out there in the world don't even know that they have access, that there is an infinite consciousness and intelligence wishing to come through us? So the most important thing for myself, for this current state of the world that we're in, is to maintain my vibration, be open and listening in that silence for the things that come up that activate me, that trigger me. Because if I get triggered, that is a wound within me that needs attention. So globally, we have wounds to heal. Here, nationally in the United States, we have collective wounds to heal. And it's going to take time and it's going to take intention, but it has to begin with each of us. And so we start that by embracing the silence, by intentionally inviting it. In those times when I'm in the dentist's office, instead of succumbing to my phone and more doom scrolling or playing New York Times mini crossword or whatever, just taking that as a gift. This is a moment to embrace the silence, to just be. And every time we do that, we're building those neural pathways. So that's the scientific way of, we develop this habit that then opens up and speaks to us. But we're also creating heart pathways that make it easier the next time to drop in. The next time we find ourselves triggered, we're able to more quickly drop into that place and find the comfort that we're looking for. Now, the book, wonderful book, and I love how Russ mentioned that we use this in practitioner training because practitioners are deeply trained to listen. And one of those things is that pause of when you're sitting with a client, sitting with somebody who's seeking spiritual support and spiritual guidance. The tendency is when we ask a question and they don't know how to answer or they don't want to answer, is to throw that safety net, that off-ramp, like on the telephone that I was talking about earlier. But just practitioners are taught to sit a little longer, let them wait. Because when we sit long enough and listen with the person that we're sitting with, what needs to come to the surface does, but we have to create the space to allow it. So in the book, Mark Nepo, there's I forget which chapter it's from now, but The Call of the Soul is the chapter. And he tells a story about he's going out into the forest. He's looking for wood. He wants to start doing woodworking artistry. And the person that he's with makes this acknowledgement that when the saplings are young, they reach for the light. Their branches go to find gaps where there's light. So they're always reaching. But as they get old, so in the beginning they're reaching for the light, but in the end, they are in the light. They're up above. And so, this is a quote from him, from the book. Once standing in the light, there is less need to reach. And that's the gift that comes from embracing the silence frequently, as often as we can. When we pull up to a red light, instead of saying, I'm running late, come on, hurry and change, it's, oh, there's a red light. There's another opportunity to just take a breath, to just breathe and be in that space and in that presence. So I want to say that I'm thankful for everybody in this room. The fact that we're here, that we come back, that we are seeking deeper understanding, that in itself is a vibration amongst the planet. This is how we are healing. This is how, as the old kind of systems that served us, that have gotten us this far, as some of them that are no longer fair for people, that require somebody to lose in order for somebody else to win, like those ways are falling away to be replaced by cooperation, by knowing that we can all go much further when we go together. And as we do that, there is guidance to us. That Spirit is always speaking, but we're not always hearing. And so we're going to finish today with a little bit of just a listening experience. So, but before I do, that's the presence. That's within all of us. We're all part of that. So I just want to encourage you this week, if you're looking for things to add into your spiritual practices, then by all means, give these a shot if it sounds good to you. Allow yourself to be bored. Take an attention. See if you can catch yourself, even if it's once a day, like, oh, I would have, but nope, right now, I'm just going to be bored for a couple minutes. And just observe what comes up in our mind. Just observation, because it's a wild place in there, at least it is in here. And so anytime I take time to observe that, who knows what's going to come up. Embrace that discomfort of silence with loved ones, with friends, with acquaintances. Sometimes the less we know somebody, it's maybe even harder. But we can invite discomfort. And then, again, with the be bored, very similar. Just making time to reach for that light. Our conscious intention, repeated over and over again, tips our own individual scale to where stuff comes up, we're going to have our challenges. But the more times that we have reached for the light, to where we're now standing in that light more regularly, you notice shifts, and it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. So with that, if you would join me, let's go ahead and go within, and we're just going to, I'll finish with the prayer, but before I do, we're going to take just a second and see what it's like to listen. So the first thing I want to do is I want to encourage you just to get comfortable in your chairs. And then looking forward with your eyes open, shift your awareness from one focal point to your full peripheral vision. Are you able to see the entire room all at once? See people on your right and your left. And take a deep breath into this space. And then without moving your eyes, and just opening in your ears. Just notice any sound that comes up without labeling, without judging, and just recognize it for what it is. It is a manifestation of this life force. We are all a manifestation of that. And then if you like, you can close your eyes and go a little deeper within. And draw attention to your breath. Notice as the breath enters the nose, notice that precise moment when it changes from an inhale to an exhale. Maybe there's a pause in between, and allow it to leave. Listen to that breath. What is one thing that your unconscious, your subjective mind is ready to look at this week? Maybe it's just something small. Maybe it's something a little more challenging. What is one place in your mind, in your life, that you would like to look at healing this week? So something comes up for each of us. I draw our attention to a presence. The original source of being that has existed for all time and that will always exist. That very presence that resides at the core of each and every one in here, that whatever you call it, whether it's God or original source, nature, the universe, the great I am, that it is within each and every one of us, and that it comes with the wisdom and the guidance, that it is always seeking to expand us, seeking to greater our experiences in order to know its own infinite nature that it does through each and every one of us. So as we genuinely open ourselves to ask, what is within us that would like to come to the light? What is within us that I can transform, that I can heal into a gift, into a strength to move forward? That when we ask these questions, the answers are within. So I affirm and avow right here and right now that Spirit raises its voice, that Spirit reaches out to others, to everyone that hears these words, in ways that make it very clear that it is Spirit speaking to us, that it is Spirit lifting up through us, that our answers come and that they are known when they are known. So that infinite light that is expands that love with a capital L across this planet, reminding us that when we lift each other up, we lift ourselves up. When we lend a hand, when we welcome a stranger, when we send our thoughts of love and admiration for those that we love, and we send our acknowledgement and recognition of the divine presence that is in every single person on this planet. It is everywhere, all at once. That there are only God's creatures, God's manifestations that we are, that each individual is, and that we are all on our own individual journeys. And while I can't condone the paths of some, I still celebrate and honor the child of the infinite that is there to make that choice. And as I lean into my presence, as I heal myself, as each person hearing these words heals and works on themselves, that there is a transformation that occurs, that reaches out, that ripples, that emanates and vibrates with those around them, creating more pockets of peace, more missionaries to bring the light to the world, that we lead by example and presence, and that this new way of being is sure to be, that it is already manifest in the mind of Spirit, and now it is our time to witness, to do what is ours to do individually as we come together collectively and create a world that truly does work for everyone. So in gratitude for that presence, in gratitude for the words and the ideas and the inspirations that Spirit is always providing for us, I say thank you for it all. I embrace the good times and the bad. I embrace the love and everything that appears to be opposite of that. I embrace the infinite knowing that nothing can hinder the light. And so I just simply allow one more moment for each of us to breathe in deeply. Sense that infinite presence within. Allow a gentle smile on our face. Hear the stillness as we release these words and affirm that we are creating this world by saying, and so it is. So it is. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
If I could give one gift to you, as solid as the morning dew, a window pane the light shines through, the spaces in between us, a gift for you my heart would bring, the sweet release of everything, the breath I take before I sing, the spaces in between us, trusting in what might arise without a thought preceding, as simple as a baby's sighs, resting and receiving. It's not what keeps our souls apart, but what connects and dreams us, the vast potential of the heart, the spaces in between us. So I offer what my heart has found, the silent love that's all around, a symphony without a sound, the spaces in between us. If I could give you more than this, let it be forever's kiss, mindful of my mindlessness, the spaces in between us. Ooh, the spaces in between us.
There's our kin. We can always count on the most magnificent.